call to order the City of Franklin Personnel Committee meeting for Monday, July 20th, 2026. Roll call, please.
No, you don't have to do that.
Alderman Mira Krestovic.
Here.
Alderman Michelle Eichmann.
Here.
Richard Bundy.
Here.
Frank Prusco.
Here.
Kathy Richard.
Here.
Kaylee Ireland.
Here.
Hamza Zuberi. Kelly Hirsch.
Present.
And Blake Weeding. I am here.
But only in body.
Have please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is our citizen comment period. Are you interested? Okay, thank you. Item 3, approval of the minutes of May 18th. Any comments as to the minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Actually, I wasn't here for that meeting, was I?
Yes, you were.
For May?
Yeah.
Yes, you were.
Okay. June I was missing?
We didn't have June's.
What?
Question,
No, I don't think I was here for May.
You weren't here for the 316, you were here for the May.
Okay, thank you.
question on number 3. Motion by Alderwoman Richard. Is that supposed to be Alderwoman?
Oh, no. Members Richard and Ireland. Oh, number 3.
I will
Wait,
make, that,
Alderman-
I will make that correction.
Sorry.
Thank you for catching.
How did you not catch that for yourself?
I didn't read down that far
I'm
yet.
joking.
She is an Alderwoman.
What's that?
Said she is, I'm not going to gender you, it's up to you.
Any other changes? Okay,
Okay, so
so
as motion.
it's been motioned and it's been passed.
Well, it would be motion amended
Um,
for.
Okay, is there a motion for amending the minutes?
Motion to approve as amended.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Not to be a pain.
Next item on our agenda, the sewer and water technician job description update.
Yes, sir. So the job description in question is the sewer and water technician. Has not been updated in over 20 years. And there's two minor things that need to be updated. Working knowledge of the DOC rules. The DOC is no longer the governing entity of the sewer and water, so it should now read the DSPS. So instead of the Department of Commerce, it should now is now overseen by the Department of Safety and Professional Services. As well as one more change for the toxic or caustic chemicals. We no longer use the chlorine that this was put in there for. So with that being said, it is just being removed.
So strike that.
Correct.
Was that the only potential for a toxic or caustic chemical that this job
Yes.
description may come in contact with?
Yes, that is correct. And if there is ever a situation where it needs to, our processes will change, where we need to start using that chlorine again, it will be put back in, or we'll bring it forth again. But there's nothing in the future. Yes.
Point of clarification, please.
Yes.
Reports to, on the first page, city engineer, not the supervisor?
Yeah, it's,
So
Or superintendent?
that's other changes.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, everything up on the top is actually
Going
subject to change. Yes, so it's no longer a grade level 13. There's no union contract, and it'll now be prepared by myself and Glenn Beardsley. who is the department head of sewer and water.
Are you just gonna put superintendent?
It's actually on 3 pages later, 2 pages later.
Oh,
Whatever
revised.
it is.
There we go.
So the changes one is right here, so you can see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So we would be
Me too.
looking, yeah,
Go
for
ahead.
a recommendation from the council, or the committee for taking it to the council with the committee's blessings, basically.
I'll make the motion.
The motion to take it forward to the
Take it
the
forward
common
to the
council.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed.
Thank you.
It was first. Motion.
Mira
seconded.
Next item, item 5, discussion on performance reviews, 360 reviews.
All right, and actually, I do have a handout for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so I think it was the March meeting that we discussed this. Maybe it was the last one too. I cannot recall. But we were talking about how we don't really have a performance review system in place right now. And one of my ideas was to have like a 360 performance review. We already do pay for that with our ADP subscription, or it comes with our subscription, which is ADP is our HRIS system.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Pretty much swallowed.
Okay, got it. So I did create a draft of the 360 review. So I guess there's a couple of decisions we can make regarding how we want to roll that out. And if you guys don't have an opinion, I can roll with it. I can do whatever I think is best practice. But I would also love to hear your input if you have background in this kind of if you have this scope of knowledge. So I guess one of them is the scale. I know it kind of seems a little basic, but there's like a scale of either 4 or if there's 5 to rate yourself or rate others on. I think the biggest difference in that is if you do a scope of 5, then you can put yourself or somebody else directly in the middle. And sometimes, you either want on the lower side or on the positive side. Can they improve on this? Can they not? So that's one of the areas. Also, it comes with standard questions, which are listed, I think on page 2. Oh, it's on page 3, the second piece of paper. So those are the questions that it automatically populates to. What I did is I looked at our long-term vision for the city of Franklin. I looked at our vision statement, our mission statement, and I tried to incorporate those in some other questions that we have or on the other rating systems. So that is attached. That's the last page there. That kind of goes through the questions that came up with for the mission and vision, essentially the values of Franklin. So in my opinion, it's best practice to intertwine the mission, vision, and values into our evaluation systems. And that's my recommendation, and I would love to hear any feedback that you guys have. Yes, Mira?
May I ask for clarification
Yes.
on the self-assessment?
Yes.
Are these 12 questions then used in that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So everyone will be answering the questions about themselves, and then they will likely get assigned a coworker to answer questions about. One of their coworkers will answer those questions about them and also their manager.
Okay.
So they will not be able to see from how I set things up, and I'm, again, open to feedback. They will not be able to see who evaluated them, yet their peer review. They will be able to see the manager.
Okay.
So,
My personal experience has been something similar to this.
Okay.
But we've never, you mentioned a scale, like 1 to 5.
Yes.
We've never ranked ourselves 1 to 5.
Was it always 1 to 4?
No, we
Oh.
didn't rank ourselves at all. We would
Okay.
just cite examples
Okay.
of
So,
where we completed this. So
so there will be a place where you can put remarks in and like your own feedback.
Okay.
And I think that's important because as much as our managers are, very involved in the day-to-day things, they don't micromanage most of the time. So, if there's something where an employee rates themselves at a 4 and their a manager does maybe like a 3 or a 2, it gives them that chance to see where it was missed. Like where's the disconnect? What is the employee doing that the manager doesn't know about? And I know there's a lot of people, including myself. I don't like to brag about myself, but honestly, when it comes to review time, I will write down everything that I have been doing. I don't ask my boss like, "Hey, did you know that I just completed this?" She doesn't want to micromanage me. I don't want to micromanage her either. So it's like it just works out best for everybody, in my opinion.
that's where I was going to make the recommendation is to omit the scale of 1 to 5 for the employee. Because when I've had employees review themselves, they always give themselves top ranks.
Okay, so I would like to jump in. That's not been my experience. In fact, most employees will rate themselves accordingly and be harder on themselves than their department heads. I think it's just a portion of what would be coming through it. And I think it's really kind of like a level setting of seeing where they're coming from, where they think they are, and not so much of a trying to match it up, but trying to make sure that whatever they're rating themselves as and they believe they are is in practice matching up more along the lines with the manager.
That makes sense to make sure perceptions align.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it is really the employee's chance to kind of brag on themselves, which most don't. So it's a good opportunity.
Okay. The only other thing I would ask as an employee is to get the 12 questions ahead of time. So like as the year's going on, otherwise I never remember.
Oh, that is good feedback. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we also have so in my experience, we've had a window of time to complete your own, and then a window of time for peer reviews, and then all would go to the manager, and they have a window of time.
And that is a little bit spelled out on the first page. The reviews would get distributed on the first. They'd have 15 days to complete it. The contributor assesses, or the coworker would assess them. They have 14 days, and then the reviewer, the manager, essentially gets to get 16 days. I put just until the beginning of February, just because if I feel like I want to give the manager the opportunity to see the employee's review as well as the coworker's review, if they want. So the manager, they can just base it off of the employee if they want, but they also do have the opportunity to wait for everything and be the final say on that. And
Frank, you have to.
oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I'm a strong proponent of 360 review. I think it's
Yes,
a
That's-
way to go.
I agree. Thank you very much.
The issue is
Mhm.
generally a couple I see. Is the training, what kind of training are the employees and the supervisors and managers going to get? Because you have small departments where there's maybe 2 or 3 people in the department or only one. So there needs to be this trust that the employees rating their boss, and if they really think their boss isn't doing a good job, are they going to be willing to, number one, rate them at that level?
Yeah, I would actually recommend that with the responses, it's kind of random. It's not necessarily somebody in the department, because we do want to know how other people are working with one another, and that collaboration and cross-department work style. I mean, it's very key. We cannot be siloed. We have to make sure that all departments are working together appropriately.
As especially when it's easy to identify who's giving that input. I found in the past it's
Yeah.
difficult to really get a true evaluation from that person, whether it's the person they're working with, or the boss, or somebody maybe from if they're the only one in the department, maybe their peer is somebody from a different department.
Right.
But it can be very powerful in terms of sometimes the supervisor really isn't aware of their impact on the employee.
Right.
And until they hear, it can be a big shock. And
Yes.
if the supervisor or manager hasn't been trained properly, the opportunity for retaliation can be high. So I would recommend that if we spend enough time with each group of employees, so it's not going to happen the first time around.
Right. Right.
As each review year comes by, you're going to probably hopefully find better input and more honest feedback than you did the first time around.
Yeah.
And but it's a real. I wasn't aware that you're going this direction, but this is a big step.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I started 3 years ago, I had asked about performance evaluations and was told we hadn't been conducting them for about 15 years. And it was because people didn't want to do it, or, the former HR manager had to chase people down, that sort of thing, and did not want to do that. This way, the nice piece about this is it's an ADP, so we can keep pushing it out too and reminding people, and it's a lot easier to hold them to accountability for this. I mean, it's a manager's role. The other thing is that I know what you're saying about perception and how to take this, and I think that for sure it makes sense to me, and we haven't talked about this, but it makes sense to me, and I sort of feel like this is what you're kind of getting at, is to have a training session with leadership and then also have a training session with different departments or staff, just to talk to them about what this really means and how you want to answer it.
Yeah. And what's the route to go if you feel you're being retaliated
Right.
against, because that's going to really stifle the effectiveness of the system itself.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have a retaliation policy that I think would make sense to take a deep dive at and see if it's appropriate to also provide it along with the review. But I also think it's appropriate for managers to also review each other.
Yes, that can be pretty powerful also.
Right. Yeah, perception's reality, right? And you just don't know what other people's perceptions are if you're not asking.
That's true.
Or even open to feedback or growth. We're open to that, and
Always.
I hope that others will be too. But the thing that I think is really important, and this is one of those things that I've tried to emphasize as well, when we bring whatever we bring forward, whatever ends up being the final, it really shouldn't be something that you are dreading. You should already know what's going to be in there, and all of those negative situations should occur in the moment and not be kept, and stockpiled for later. Right, right.
But
Sometimes there is.
there are, and
Yeah.
the relationships get strained, and there has to be some kind of mechanism for the employee to somebody neutral,
Like Blake.
Blake,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
they can go to and say, hey, I think my manager or supervisor is getting back at me because I said this or this, because it's evident they're the ones who said it.
Right. Yeah. And so that's something that we would do is, and people do right now, we encourage them to go directly to Blake if you've got any concerns. Yeah, especially if somebody cannot speak with their manager about it. You know, it's hopefully they can have that conversation. But if they can't, you know, for sure he's in the role to be the mediator and try to help with the situation.
There shouldn't be any real surprises by anyone
No,
if you've been creating the environment.
right.
You should be able to get that feedback from your employees.
Correct.
So it shouldn't be a big surprise to you if something comes through that's shocking.
Right. Yeah, nothing should be shocking. And for me, I prefer to look more at, you know, there's a series of questions, but goals should be very important. What kind of goals do you have? What short-term goals? What long-term goals? And what kind of assistance do you need to reach those goals?
Another question I have, what impact, if any, will the performance reviews have directly on salary?
There will be. Oh, go ahead.
So under our current compensation, it would either be satisfactory or not satisfactory. Those that aren't satisfactory don't get the standard non-rep pay increase. Those that are would get that.
Okay. Yeah, that can create animosity against your coworkers if you're giving somebody a bad review and they didn't get an increase or as much of a salary increase as they think they should have.
Right. And that's a little bit of the catch-22 here is that all non-reps get a certain amount, all reps get a certain amount, you know, based upon their union contracts. So it's all pretty much standard. This is how my understanding is this has always been the case. The former HR person would send an email out and ask everybody, all the managers, to say, you know, is everybody performing satisfactorily, or if not, you know, let me know. And that's how that's been, which I think is very problematic because it leaves so much to subjectiveness and really creates a lot of issues. So, you know, with our current compensation, you don't get paid for how hard you work or your production or, you know, your commitment. So right now it's what it is. But hopefully we can use the performance reviews to create a more meaningful compensation plan.
Yeah, and if the employee isn't satisfactory, the supervisor should have been sitting down and working up a plan, performance improvement plan to get
Right.
up. So again, it shouldn't be a surprise to the employee.
Right. And, you know, honestly, if it is or isn't, that's when I would recommend that the department head and the employee are sitting down with Blake, and he's the mediator walking through this. And, you know, he's done that already with, I think, a number of people. So, yeah. Again, you know, like this should never be a surprise to anybody. And I think it should never take the place of day-to-day interactions and conversations that need to occur.
I agree.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a bunch.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bunch. I was just waiting.
Oh, perfect.
But you did ask some of the ones that I had. But I'll start with what I wrote down first. You started to explain, but I was curious about the reasoning behind what you called peer-to-peer review. I know that it exists, haven't experienced it myself. You started to say, like, we want to know how departments work together, and I understand that collaboration. Do we have the ability, kind of to point out his concern, to do that and keep it anonymous if we have a manager and maybe 3 other people in that department? And then if we say we cross departments, well, is that person that crosses departments really going to know anything about the employee that they're evaluating if they don't really work with them?
So there's a lot of
All that.
So there's a lot of department collaboration or cross-departmental working together. So there should be other people that have some sort of insight into how a person is working.
And I will say this is my hope, at least, that it's going to be a positive thing and not a chance for someone to play tattletale on somebody.
Right.
So that's kind of how I'll probably set it up, or Kelly and I will set this up to like kind of set the stage. Like, this is what we want to do. I know it's human nature. There's probably going to be some flaws in the first year of this, rollout, but that is a very good insight to have. And I know the smaller departments, maybe that's something that we do like from outside. Like if there's like less than 5 people in a department, maybe like, have like that. Who do they work with? Like HR, there's me, and then, Kelly's like the head at the helm.
Where does their work go to which department?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Where do they get work from?
Right, or who are they working with that it's very close and impactful on that person's work. Back to your other question, that would be completely anonymous.
I guess I'm just saying, if it was a 3-person department and you have worked with them long
Right.
enough, you're going to know if they make any comments, and that was the other thing. Are they going to be able to comment, or is it just going to be a rating on the questions?
There will be both
Okay,
for
that,
all the reviews.
So that lends itself to, if I know the speech style of the person that I've been working with for 20 years, I'm going to be able to read comments and
Right.
know exactly who that was. So,
But you can change that too and do a different summary of it,
right.
And
that's fair. I just asking those questions.
yeah.
Which goes into my next one with the ultimate. So I know he asked the question of, is it tied to any kind of like a merit increase or anything like that? Which we're saying no, but
No.
maybe in the future.
Yes.
So will we have it tied at all, even in the first go rounds of it, to the satisfactory, unsatisfactory?
Yeah, I would say that would be important to include, yes.
Okay. And
Because it actually there's concrete evidence and support there in terms of what we aren't doing, and not just one
a review for review.
subjective email, right?
And then, so if it is tied to the satisfactory, unsatisfactory, if we have a 5-point rating scale and somebody's in the middle,
3's all the way down, yeah. So maybe 4 would be the way to go.
right, so you have to
Okay.
kind of mark that line. Next question, is it going to everyone? Like every department, is that the goal?
Yes.
Okay. That's a yes or no question. And then he mentioned something that I don't think you said, is an employee to manager evaluation.
Yeah, we did not say that, but
Yeah. That's a good something we can look into. I guess I never even thought about that. I'll look into that. I think we can make work with ADP to make sure that we can do that if that's what we want to do. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.
yeah, and I think it would probably be more applicable to have like comments. Is this person approachable? Stuff like that. Take the values and mission and turn it around, basically.
And so last question then goes to ultimate rating and what determines that satisfactory or unsatisfactory. If we have, Blake is my manager, so he's reviewing me. You're my peer, so you're reviewing me, and I give my own self a rating. Are we doing an average then to ultimately land at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or how is that coming down?
And we can discuss this a little bit more, but I think it more so for the employees, coworkers to have comments is more important rather than the rating. Okay. So I don't know if that should be evaluated
Yeah.
or
Right, and that's
averaged
fair.
in.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it should be more about comments, how that person is to work with, that sort of thing, if they're reliable or what have you. My vision of all of this would ultimately, it is the department head with the human resource administrator really kind of making sure that everything is not as personal as it needs to be, but making sure that things are professional. And I think that that's something that every department head should work with Blake to do.
And you will run into those situations. I know you mentioned that somebody will be like, I'm awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
you'll run into the situations where somebody kind of is really hard on themselves. I will make a suggestion to consider when you have massive disparities between employee and manager, that we have to have somebody step in, and you almost
Right.
have to redo the process.
Right.
Because it could eventually be tied to some sort of compensation, whether it's just satisfactory, unsatisfactory at this point,
Right.
or if there's percentages being assigned to each 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of thing. If they're at complete different ends, that can cause some issues.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, especially in your smaller departments and or in relationships. I mean, obviously, everybody has relationships, different relationships with people, and we are here to grow those relationships, not to hinder them or create
And I think
animosity.
the employee or the manager can also, they'll have the feedback of the employee. And I would hope, we will do our training with them, that they can, essentially, we would like to empower the managers to make the correct decision. And if there still is those disparity, I would absolutely address that. But I think with the manager seeing the full scope and all the answers, everything is explained correctly, everything that they did, I would hope, I have faith in our managers that they will be able to make those decisions appropriately. And there is also a feature where it doesn't get released to the employee. I try not to micromanage managers, but I could also have them have the surveys essentially not released until I approve it. I did not select that, but it's something I could also do.
Right. Or, we could do it together too, however it makes sense, but to have that different perspective that's not involved in that manager employee is, I think, going to be important in those situations for sure.
I think this is where some just basic training with supervisors and managers, if they come in and say, this person's unsatisfactory, and I think my first question to them would have been, well, have you talked to them? And they say, well, no, but they should know that this is not right. But so some may need training on how do you start a performance improvement plan and things like that.
I have been working with our managers one at a time on that.
Good.
So, yes.
Good.
And so that brings up another point for me, and this is me coming from obviously private sector, and I hate to use acronyms, but KPIs, we all love that word, key performance indicators. One of the biggest complaints that I hear and experience myself with my own performance reviews that I have to conduct is that you have these lovely questions, but they are very subjective as opposed to numbers based or factual, where you can like it back to, I will say something as easy as showing up to work on time. If they're clocking in and out, you can see they clocked in at 8:15 instead of 8 every single morning. It's a number.
We don't have,
Right, I'm just saying, but I'm
Right.
just giving you an example of that it's very factual. It's not subjective.
Here's the problem, though, is some of the departments in the work can't necessarily be measured by that. It's not like how many oranges did you bring forward and that sort
Right.
of
Oh,
thing
of
this
course.
year.
It's very different when you have, there's not like a number or a quantification of some sort of job title that they're doing.
Right.
And we standardize the questions just so it's like across the board. That is something. I would hope that we could roll it out still by the end of the year if you determine that maybe we should have like department specific questions. I think that would take a significant longer of time.
I think it goes back to his question on the training for managers.
Oh, sure.
And understanding that they have to make sure that expectations of job performance, whether they're fully measurable by a number of something that spits out, you had one, you made two type of thing,
Right.
or just these are the clear expectations of the role.
Right.
So I know we have job descriptions and things like that, but a lot of times those job descriptions don't always, they tell you kind of what you could do, but it's not how well you should be doing it.
Right.
So the training for a manager to understand their department, their positions, what makes a good whatever job title needs to be very clear for both them and the employee when they're going through these questions. Because they can be, I mean, you can say aligns oneself and encourages others to align with the company's decisions. So when they are going out and performing their, duties, are they on time? Are they communicating properly? That would align with the, a vision. So we have very clear guidelines, even if they're not numbers for each department.
So like almost like specify kind of each.
Well,
each-
and it is kind of on here. Service to the community demonstrates a commitment to providing exceptional service to residents, businesses, and visitors. It's sort of there, definitely tweakable.
And so I guess for what I mean is it's a yes and in the sense that you do these types of things for performance reviews, but throughout the year, this may be something that you expand on where they have one-on-ones with the supervisor, so that when it says demonstrates a commitment to providing exceptional service, do they understand that for their department what that actually means?
Right. Like, and 100% we need to have more of those conversations, the managers and their employees, because it's so key to make sure that we are expressing the expectations. If we're not expressing it, then how can we expect anybody to meet them?
You should be able to cite examples. of
Right.
this so they can agree. Maybe there isn't a number that
Right.
says
It's not
so
always a
many
number. But
widgets they did or whatever, but they can give examples of this is what that would look like.
Right.
Talking about communications, here are some examples of what I see you doing positively or negatively.
Right. Like, I see that you're not responding to complaints from residents and you're not even dealing with it until it's already somebody else's problem and they're bringing it to you. Stuff like that's very good examples. Hopefully that's not happening. Or if it is, managers are corralling that and addressing it.
Sure.
Yes.
Is this something that can be kept private and confidential in an employee's folder, or if somebody puts in an ORR for it, are they able to be given it?
It would be confidential.
Has the union been involved in discussions about this?
No, because we don't rate the union employees.
This wouldn't cover the union.
This will not cover union.
So the two union groups actually have their own performance reviews. I know that the fire department and the police department have their own, and they have been conducting it for years. They have different policies. What else?
But you have other represented employees that are not part of the police or the fire.
No.
there are non-union employees at the police department, so they
They
would
may have
potentially be
been.
You're
subject to
saying
this.
union
Right.
employees? There are other ones beside the fire?
Oh, I don't know, I'll just go back from something that I had from before. We have 130 non-rep and 100 rep employees.
That's the rep is the union, and the non-rep are everybody else. So it's the command staff at the PD and the FD, and then
So nobody from the Department of Works,
no, that's old. They're not under a union anymore.
not in the union at all.
No,
They
not,
had been at one point in time, but
right.
they no longer are.
All right.
It's just the
Well, that
police
should
and fire.
that should make.
It easier, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right.
And will both of you also be involved, be part of the 360?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it's nice to say this. Will the mayor be?
I would hope not, actually. I mean, I think it's important to separate staff from the electeds in terms of
Sure.
of that day-to-day observations and that sort of thing. I mean, again, I think that any elected can give their feedback, but I don't see it being appropriate for them to go on and do it as if they're their managers, because they're not.
Yeah, they get their performance review every
Couple of years, and
every election.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as the interactions with that's fine. Just question.
I feel, and we don't always interact as everybody is.
Right. Yeah.
So, excuse me. So where we are is we're discussing this, and then as you develop it, you'll be coming back
Okay.
with more information.
Yes, sir.
You know, good work.
You've done a very nice job on this.
Yes.
Okay. So that leaves me.
Right.
This is also just for discussion. We're not, looking for any kind of answers right now. It's just kind of more of what we are doing, what I'm
The
working on.
organizational structure?
Yes. Okay, so I have my own notes and then I have the documents. So for the City of Franklin Personnel Committee organizational structure review and recommended operational realignment, working packet for committee discussion, I put together an executive summary, which is basically stating why this packet's put together. And if you want me to read through all of this, I can, but I'm not really sure if you just want me to touch on the highlights, and then we can go back and you can ask questions or whatever, or give feedback.
Okay, so we're talking about the organizational structure, not the personnel committee, right?
We are talking about number 6.
Number 6.
So yes, it's discussion of current organizational structure org chart.
No, please go ahead and
Okay.
give us a summary. We've been involved in that quite a bit lately.
Yeah, so essentially what we want to do is make sure that we are, however this ends up shaking out, that the structure of the city is appropriate, it's legal, and it's practical. Right now, so when you look at attachment B, historical 2005 organizational chart source file, this is it's within here. I don't have it paged out. It's after the PowerPoint packet. Really big piece of paper that has nothing but the attachment on it.
Oh, here we go.
Attachment B.
Towards
So-
the end.
So it's historical 2005 organizational chart source file, and if you look at it, it's really old. We have a lot of municipal ordinance changes that have impacted this, and so what this is and where it started is not where things are today, right? I'm going to go back to the executive summary, right? So just kind of like, it's a little bit of a mess is basically the nicest way to say it. It's not accurate. It does not reflect what it's supposed to be or what is actual practice right now. And I think that what's most important is that we shake it all out and get everything where it needs to be. So this is really a very in-depth document to try to get at what I'm trying to do and how it will work for the city, the hopes of it all. So the recommendation in the executive summary is not to remove or diminish statutory responsibilities. And for example, the clerk, police chief, fire chief, municipal court, city attorney, boards, or commissions. Instead, it distinguishes between policy authority, statutory authority, public safety command authority, legal, judicial independence, and administrative coordination, right? So the Common Council and mayor retain policy and governance roles. Director of Administration should be identified as the central day-to-day operational coordinator for administrative departments and citywide administrative systems. Statutory offices and public safety command functions should remain clear and legally protected, while coordinating budget, labor, risk, policy information, facilities, and workflow through administration, because that's all operational. Future changes to the organizational chart should not occur through formal review, should occur through formal review and council action rather than incremental or informal practice. So I believe several months back we had talked about, when Dana was still here, changes to the handbook and how we want to track that. Well, this is how I want to have an actual tracking where we would have revised what's changed, every time something changes, because my goal is to make it a living document. It's like the governance framework, right? So we've got requested committee direction, and this is when you had asked us to provide this review and suggestions and that sort of thing. So what we are hoping is that we can, over time, develop a city organizational chart that's consistent with the framework attached to this packet, right? So it's subject to law, it's subject to state statutes, city ordinances, best practices. It makes sense, and it's grounded in a foundation that I think we need to really lay. It's very important that we put the foundation down. So I will get to that later of what I'm doing with that. But so it'd be like a recommended motion concept would be to direct staff to continue revising this and bringing it forward to talk about it until eventually the personnel committee is feeling good, whether it's sections or if it's the whole piece, having simultaneously the city attorney making sure that all ordinances and state statutes are applied, and to eventually take it to council for approval. So, purpose, I will read this. Purpose is to provide a clean, defensible organizational structure for personnel committee review, clarify operational reporting relationships and administrative coordination, reduce the potential for political or informal interference in day-to-day staff operations, preserve legally distinct roles under Wisconsin law and city ordinance, create a practical structure that can be communicated to staff and residents. So I put a little bit of background and historical context in here about the 2005 organizational chart. I think it's a great, useful starting point, but we're not there anymore, and we need to really look forward to something that communicates where we need to be, not even where we are, where we need to be. So governance principles for the revised chart. Policy direction should come from the Common Council and Mayor through lawful action and established governance channels. Daily staff direction should be routed through the administrative chain of command to avoid conflicting instructions and inconsistent priorities. Statutory, judicial, legal, public safety, and board commission authority should be shown distinctly so the chart does not imply improper supervision. Administrative functions should be grouped under the Director of Administration when day-to-day coordination, budget, human resources, risk, procurement, information flow, or cross-department implementation is required. The chart should be formal enough to guide daily operations, but flexible enough to accommodate legal review and future council policy changes. So what I've done is kind of put together a bunch of charts so you guys can see what I'm looking at and why it's important. So the first one is based off of Wisconsin statutory and local framework, right? We are organized under Wisconsin law, and we operate as a second-class city. I know it's not very flattering sounding, but that's actually where we fit. So it's really important that we are respecting the state statutes and also our ordinances, and we're not getting away from that, right? Revised chart should not attempt to override Chapter 62 or other statutory requirements. Rather, it should clarify how the city coordinates day-to-day operations within those legal boundaries. So, for example, functional classification matrix, right? You've got your function or your role. First one is common council. The legal or governance consideration would be they're the legislative body, policy, budget, ordinances, contracts, and municipal authorities subject to state statute. So they're top governance level. Operational note, policy direction shall be formalized through council action, not individual operational direction. That's a big one, and that has been an issue in the past. The mayor, I'm just going to go through these two just as an example because I don't want to keep you guys here all night, and I don't want to talk all night. So mayor, executive, obviously the policy leadership role under Chapter 62 in local ordinance, top governance level with council. Provides leadership and recommendations, shall not create competing daily reporting lines. And that's that ends up, actually, you can see problems when you have one person working on something and another person working on something, and the one person doesn't know that the other person is working on it because they had somebody else tell them who should not be doing that. That interference causes extra work, and I think it can lead to problems too. Anytime you have miscommunication, it can lead to problems, right? So this actually goes on for quite a bit, just kind of looking at some of the top positions and how that works. So on the other page, I've got city clerk, finance director, police chief, fire chief, city attorney, and it all kind of basically, for example, fire chief, police and fire commission and chief command authority must remain clear. Public safety command function with functional coordination is where the recommended chart treatment is. Operational note, coordinate with administration for budget, labor, HR, facilities, risk, IT, and policy implementation, which is what everybody pretty much does. Where's my favorite? Municipal judge and court, legal or governance consideration, judicial function and municipal court operations are legally distinct. So the recommended chart treatment would be separate judicial function. You want to keep those three branches of power separate. That's the only way that they actually run appropriately. And so you've got your executive branch, your legislative branch, and your judicial branch. And I think it's important to point that out, that everybody has a lane and everyone needs to stay in their lane in order to function appropriately. So, for example, recommended chart treatment, separate judicial function, like we had talked about. Operational note, budget and facilities coordination only. No administrative supervision of judicial decision making, because that wouldn't be appropriate. And then, just kind of goes on, right, through those positions. Make sure I'm looking at the right page now, because I got all turned around here. Okay, so that's several pages. On the other side of the last page, on page 6, from those charts, benchmarking themes from comparable Wisconsin municipalities is so important too. And I think that it's important because it allows us to look at them and say, okay, this is how they're operating. It doesn't mean that we have to do things the way that they are, but it is very important to make sure that there's some sort of similarity, especially to those municipalities that are running appropriately. So I did some sources. This is not necessarily the local one, but I have identified the local ones. So, for example, City of Greenfield, observed theme, departmental directory groups, City Hall administrative services, including clerk, community development, engineering, finance, treasurer, HR, inspection services, IT, and public works. and it supports grouping administrative and service functions in a coherent operational framework. I actually skipped over City of Waukesha. City administrator is described as responsible for day-to-day operations and overall coordination of departments. How it's applicable to Franklin supports a professional administrative coordination model. The WCMA, which is the Wisconsin, I gotta remember what this is now, the Wisconsin, trying to think of what that C is, of, do you have it? I have it cited somewhere too. So, Wisconsin City County Management Association. Okay, so it's a separate group. Sorry and thank you.
Can you repeat that?
It's actually noted in here on page 9. You don't even need to write it down. Just you see page 9. And again, it's the Wisconsin City County Management Association guidance on administrator option and city manager option. And it's just one of the many sources that have been used. So the observed theme, administration option, allows Chapter 62 cities to tailor administrator duties. Day-to-day operations shift to the administrator while the mayor retains executive policy leadership. It's applicable to Franklin in that it supports clarifying that policy roles remain while daily operations are coordinated professionally. So there's just a couple of differences there for that one. And it's actually not all of the departments that would be included. Or not departments, but municipalities. And I have a list of that later on. So then, kind of like looking at an implementation roadmap, what does this look like, right? So we would get personnel committee direction and review what proposed structure, working framework where we are going with. And then the second would be to have the city attorney review, make sure that all legal statutes and ordinances are being met and considered. And then phase 3 would be final chart and definitions. So, making it very clear what that final chart looks like so we have something that's updated. Phase 4 would be council action. Phase 5 would be staff communication. So, rolling this out with staff and talking to them about what this looks like. And then phase 6 is follow-up review. And this would be an ongoing thing. The idea is that this is fluid. It's a living document and it requires updating on a regular basis, or at least a review, to make sure, because ordinances change, statutes change all the time, so we want to make sure that we are following what is right and legal. So I have in here personnel committee talking points, right? The proposal is about governance and operations, not personalities. I think that's important to drive home. The chart preserves statutory duties and public safety command authority. The goal is to prevent informal or political direction from replacing professional administration. The chart creates clarity for staff, residents, elected officials, vendors, and future administrators. And the legal review is built into the process before final council adoption, so it's been fully vetted. Some of the attachments I have here is first a editable proposed organizational chart PowerPoint packet, then a historical 2005 organizational chart source file, which I had already mentioned. And then finally, attachment C is recommended organizational chart. So after that, I also have the sources and authorities considered on page 9, so that everybody knows this is rooted in law. It's rooted in best practice. It's rooted in our ordinances and how other municipalities run things. So if you want to look at the proposed organizational chart PowerPoint packet, you can kind of run through this. So the first page, it's the City of Franklin organizational structure review. The recommended structure is clarify governance, preserve statute authority or statutory authority, and centralize day-to-day operations under professional administration. So in this packet, we have governance rationale, Wisconsin statutory framework, benchmarking themes, proposed operational chart, implementation roadmap, and you've seen some of that in the document that I just went through. Core recommendations, council and mayor set policy, administration manages daily operations, statutory offices retain legal duties, public safety command remains with chiefs and the police and fire commission. And then decision goal, move from informal evolution to formal structure, reduce unclear direction and political interference, create stable accountability for staff and residents. I think that is very, very important. Page 2, legal and governance framework. The chart distinguishes between policy authority, statutory authority, operational supervision, and administrative coordination. Okay, so essentially what it's telling you is the Common Council, for example, they're the legislative body. They adopt ordinances, budgets, policy. They control cities' property, finances, contracts, and public works subject to state statute. They may create, modify offices and reporting structure within statutory limits. The mayor, executive policy leadership role, presides over council, provides recommendations, appointing, confirming authority varies by office and local ordinance. So, for example, he is in the position to appoint all of the cabinet member positions, and then the council is in the position to confirm them. Just like you might have seen with our most recent hire, the city attorney. Director of Administration, Chief Administrative Officer for Central Administration, coordinates day-to-day administrative activities, excluding clerk functions. Operational coordination should be explicit in the chart. Statutory independent functions, the clerk, she's the legal custodian and has election duties, so therefore that in and of itself is a whole set of different duties and why she's set apart, just like PFC, authority for police and fire chiefs, right? And these are all in state statutes, predominantly in Chapter 62. I also cited on the bottom. So municipal judge court, judicial independence, that's important. And then attorney provides legal advice, not line supervision. Practical management rule, daily operations should route through administration. Department heads should not receive conflicting direction. I think that's important. Elected officials retain policy role without managing staff. I also think that's very important. So the bottom line, the chart should not override statutes, nor will it. It should clarify how the city functions day to day, and formal adoption reduces ambiguity and risk. So again, primary authorities considered Wisconsin State Statutes, Chapter 62, in particular 62.09, 62.11, 62.13. We have Franklin Administration Description, Franklin Employee Handbook, and the League of Wisconsin Municipalities / WCMA Municipal Management Guidance. Okay. Everyone's still following me, right? Okay.
Sorry, quick point of clarification. On page 2 of that, it almost appears as though the budgeting is moving to Common Council and it's no longer the mayor's. Is that
No.
misunderstanding?
That's so the real job of the council is to make laws and hold the checkbook. If you want to, just really basically put out there like that. That doesn't change.
So is the mayor still creating the budget?
Yeah, the mayor always does his recommended, and then the council through the finance committee and staff then end up shaping it to the adopted budget.
Thank you. Sorry for that.
You're welcome. No worries. Let's see how I want to do this. Okay, so then on page 3, benchmarking themes from comparable Wisconsin municipalities. I think it's important to look at nearby communities, generally separate policy governance from day-to-day administration and group administrative services under professional management. So if you look at, again, and this is really repetitive from the document that I included, but it's charted and everybody likes that. So it's much of the same. The benchmark conclusion is that Franklin does not need to copy another municipality. The defensible pattern is to centralize administrative coordination while preserving the legal independence of statutory offices and public safety command. On the other side of that page, and this is, I think, where this all kind of came to light. So the organizational problem to solve. The issue is not people. The issue is structure, authority, and consistency. Currently, our risk patterns are functions have evolved informally. Operational direction can be fragmented. Reporting lines are not consistently documented. Staff may experience competing expectations. Those are all, as I'm sure you can imagine, problems. So it needed correction. Adopt a formal reporting framework, route day-to-day operations through administration, separate policy direction from staff management, which I think is very key, and protect statutory officer independence. The expected result, clear accountability, which we need, better interdepartmental coordination, reduced political interference, and more consistent execution of council policy. It's like, that saying, too many cooks in the kitchen. If it's not clear and you're not communicating to the right party and somebody else is running with it, it's going to be a disaster and a mess. So this is an operational governance cleanup. It's not a critique of current or former employees or elected officials or anything. This is just where we are today, the problems that we face, and how I've identified, how I believe we can clean it up and make it something that works for the city. On that note, the recommended operational organizational chart. So solid lines, that's the next page. Solid lines indicate operational reporting. Dotted lines indicate statutory functional coordination. So up at the top and on the same par would be the Common Council, who takes care of policy and legislation, and the mayor, who is the executive policy or runs executive policy. And then it would be the director of administration, known as the chief administrative officer for day-to-day operations. Under that, you would have the departments that are pretty much already reporting to me on the operational day-to-day side of things. That's the finance director and treasurer, human resources, information technology. Did I just see you go like that? Informational technology, public works, planning and community development, engineering, city engineer, and then underneath that, because we have so many, inspection services, assessor, health department, economic development, and communications, admin support. This is not like a two-tiered thing. It's all one line, just so you guys know. And then what we are looking at is the dotted lines, right? These are our statutory roles that we have to be mindful of. For example, the city clerk, statutorily, she's responsible for elections and records. And that is something that is the core of her job. So she kind of is on her own plane here, if you will, right? Same with municipal judge and court. They are taking care of the judicial functions. You would not want to, again, it's the, what do they call it? I'm trying to think of the term with the three branches and separation of powers. It's so key. We can kind of see what's happening when you don't have separation of powers in our federal system right now. Checks and balances, exactly. And that's why it's so key that each branch stays in their branch or stays in their lane, if you will. City attorney, legal counsel, police chief, again, he is subject to PFC and command authority, same with the fire chief, and then boards and commissions. Those are statutory and or advisory roles. So all boards are advisory, some are also statutorily required. For example, the Parks Commission, planning, that sort of thing. So there are requirements and there are administrative rules that they would have to follow that aren't necessarily like every other commission or board. Okay? So should I pause or should we keep moving? Okay. Recommended classification of roles. This classification helps prevent the chart from unintentionally overstating supervisory authority. So Director of Administration, recommended chart treatment, central operational authority. Day-to-day management note, coordinates administrative departments and citywide operations consistent with ordinance and policy. The finance treasurer, who is one and the same. Recommended chart treatment would be operational report to administration with statutory finance duties preserved. That's exactly how it is right now. Day-to-day management note, budget and treasury functions coordinated through administration. That's how that's operating. The city clerk, because this is a statutory role with very clear duties that are involved, separate statutory officer and function. And the clerk office retains elections, licensing, agenda records, and legal custodian duties, coordinate administratively as needed. There's all of those matters that fall under administrative that hit every department, the budget, the HR. It was on one of these other sheets, but you get the idea. So that would be pretty much the same. And then it just kind of goes down of how that would look. Okay, so then versus now versus proposed. Okay, so in 2005, that's the then, we have a historical reference point, more centralized administrative alignment, clearer lines of accountability. It's a useful benchmark, but not a model to replicate. Then we have the now current state. Structure has evolved incrementally. Reporting lines may be inconsistent. Operational functions are fragmented, and we risk conflicting direction and uneven accountability. And you can see that in how we operate today. Proposed recommended, formal chart adopted by the council, daily operations centralized under administration, statutory roles protected, policy directions separated from staff management. So I probably don't have to run into that, but so this is a governance modernization proposal. It creates clarity for council, staff, residents, and future administrators. So the implementation roadmap that I was kind of looking at, again, it would be a phased approach. So it reduces disruption and allows legal review before council adoption. First would be direction. Personnel committee reviews the proposed framework and directs staff to finalize it. And that can happen today, that can happen next meeting, and that's pretty much at the end of all of our meetings when you talk about what you'd like to see for future meetings. So it's sort of informal that we do it every time, but so that's what that equates to. 2 would be the legal review. City attorney reviews consistency with statutes, ordinances, and appointment removal provisions. I think that's very key. In fact, everything that I've been working on for governance framework has that in its core. It will go through, is it meeting statutory requirements? Does it meet our local ordinances? Does it meet best practices, the organization as a whole and our needs? 3, final chart. Administration prepares the final chart, definitions, any required ordinance, policy amendments. Council action. Common Council adopts chart and directs use of administrative operations. 5, communication. Staff receive formal communication of reporting coordination expectations. This is something that does not exist right now. It's very informal. 6, review. Administration reports back after implementation and recommends refinements if needed or as needed. Suggested committee action. Recommend council direction to finalize a formal operational organizational chart subject to city attorney review. Sorry, I'm pausing before I pick up the next one. Suggested personnel committee framing and action. Opening framing, and I think this is important. This proposal is not about changing statutory authority. In fact, it's about the very opposite of that. It's to enforce statutory authority. It's about clarifying day-to-day operation accountability, which is not clear. And it really results in a lot of issues because the expectations aren't clear and who you're supposed to be talking to about certain things isn't clear, and it just leads to a mess. The goal is to reduce ambiguity, improve coordination, and prevent informal structure from replacing formal governance. The chart can be refined after legal review, but the direction should be clear. Recommended motion concept. Move to recommend that the Common Council direct staff to finalize a revised city organizational chart consistent with the framework presented, preserving statutory and independent duties, centralizing administrative operations, and returning any necessary ordinance or policy amendments for council consideration. And then that's kind of it for that document. Attachment B is the historical 2005 organizational chart source file. So this was last amended in 2005. It's right up at the top. And it is the officers and employees. It's also under 55-1 in our local ordinances. It's got the citizens. It's got your 3 branches, the Common Council, Mayor, Judicial branch. And then under the Common Council, you've got the boards and commissions. And then under the mayor, you have all of the departments. And that's how it's working right now. Or that's the chart that is, I should say it's not how it's working right now, but it is the chart that started all the charts. And then attachment C is the recommended operational chart. Again, it's the same chart that I had provided in the packet. I think it's just maybe a little bit bigger, maybe not, I'm not sure. But I tried to make it where it was clear. And this is what it looks like. So it's on its own. And then that way you can make notes on it. And if you want to only bring this back when we talk about it again, hopefully that makes it easier. And then the last thing that I have here that I wanted to touch on is this is kind of like a, I'm trying to think I cannot think of the word now that I was like a capstone almost, right? I want to create, yes, this. It says City of Franklin Administrative Governance Framework. We need this. We need to have everything in writing and where anybody can find it, right? So this is my personal goal and what I've set out to do. And the reason I'm bringing it to you is so that way you can see what the bigger picture looks like and what I'm trying to accomplish, right? So Volume 1, Governance, Philosophy, and Organizational Design. Why is the city organized this way, right? So under this part, we would have the purpose, why organizational structure matters, objectives of the review, guiding principles, relationship between elected officials and administration. Frank, would you like us to wait? We could take a break if you'd like. Yeah.
And then give your voice a break too.
Yeah, right.
Okay, let's take a 10-minute break.
Okay. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself too because I was looking at some things even right up before our meeting and tried to put it all together, but kind of ran out of time. So I'm going to just take a step back if you are all okay with that. So most municipalities have an organizational chart. They have job descriptions and maybe a list of department responsibilities, but they almost never explain legal reasons why, and that's the gap that I'm hoping to fill, okay, with this. So part of what I've already presented to you would be a inclusion of the Wisconsin Municipal Position Authority Guide. And what this would look like is it could basically become the definitive reference for the city for every position. So every position would have the exact same format. For example, city clerk position classification, position classification would be statutory officer created by Wisconsin State Statute 62.09 and Franklin Municipal Code Chapter 55-1. It's not in anything that you guys have. This is something I tried finishing up. It's just like another thing. So this all, obviously, I've been thinking about and researching and putting together, and it just keeps kind of growing into a bigger thing. So this is what that bigger thing is. And I just wanted to introduce it to everybody, okay? So it would be appointed by mayor with council confirmation. Removal would be applicable Wisconsin state statutes, Franklin ordinances, employment policies, and any applicable contract. And this isn't how every position would be. It's just these core headings would be the same for every single one, right? But obviously the answers would be different. Purpose: serves as the city's official custodian of legislative records and chief election official responsible for carrying out numerous duties assigned directly by Wisconsin law. And that is why the clerk's position is different because of those statutory duties. So by law, the clerk's position has to fulfill certain duties. Those statutory responsibilities include elections, public notices, ordinances, minutes, licenses, official records, and certifications. Duties that cannot simply be reassigned, right? That's what I just read off. We cannot decide that, well, we're going to assign it to somebody else instead of the clerk. That's the clerk's responsibilities by law. Duties that may be delegated would be the deputy clerk, administrative staff, election inspectors, etc. They all have the ability in those positions to have duties delegated to them. However, it still comes down, these statutory responsibilities still are the clerk's responsibilities regardless if they're designated or not. Or delegated, I should say. Common misconceptions, right? The clerk works for the council. No, the clerk is a municipal officer serving the city under state law. So, practical examples, right? Can the administrator sign election paperwork? No. Can another employee administer elections? Only under statutory authority. Legal risks would be improper delegation, election violations, open records violations, or notice deficiencies. And then Franklin considerations, how Franklin currently operates. We'd put that in there. Any local ordinances expanding the duties and potential policy improvements. And every single position gets this treatment. And then at the end of it, I want to do a cross-reference matrix, right? So it would have the position, state statute, independent is a question mark, licensed, question mark, statutory officer, question mark, appointment, and removal. So it would be like everything that I just said, but in a little chart. So in this chart, I've got clerk, yes, statutory, yes, independent, no, she does not need to be licensed, yes, statutory officer, appointment by mayor and council, and removal by ordinance and statute. So it kind of runs through it. Another example, IT. No, it's not a state statute position. No, it's not independent. No, it does not have statutory officer duties. Appointment is administrator, and removal would be personnel policy. So just so you kind of get an idea of that. And then I intend to put a Wisconsin Municipal Authority pyramid. So instead of explaining with words, show it visually. And you can't see this, but it starts with Wisconsin Constitution, Wisconsin statutes, administrative code, Franklin Charter ordinances, Franklin Municipal Code, council policies, administrative policies, department procedures, and standard operating procedures. Then beside each of the department procedures and SOPs, Constitution, statutes, local ordinances, policies, procedures, to make sure that it makes sense when you look at it, right?
We like that.
Sorry about that. Okay, and then by that, people instantly understand that you cannot create a policy that conflicts with an ordinance. You cannot adopt an ordinance that conflicts with Wisconsin law, and everything flows downward. Additionally, every department ideally should have a one-page at-a-glance profile. For example, Director of Administration, role, Chief Administrative Officer, reports to Mayor and complements council policy as established by ordinance, supervises department heads, primary statutes, Wisconsin Statute 62.09 and Franklin ordinances, primary responsibilities, organizational leadership, budget coordination, that's where that one was, personnel administration, purchasing, strategic planning, and council implementation. Cannot perform duties assigned exclusively by statute to another office. For example, clerk's election duties, assessor's valuation decisions, and judges' judicial functions, which I would not want to do, nor do I have the time. And then you would see it works closely with mayor, common council, city attorney, finance clerk, department heads. And then final piece on this is why some positions are different. This format would explain in plain English why it is. So equal respect does not mean identical legal status, right? And I think it's important that people understand that. Some positions carry independent statutory authority, and we had kind of discussed that with the clerk, the chief of police, chief of fire, and others require professional licensure, others exist solely because the city created them. So those distinctions affect the supervision, delegation, accountability, compensation, and organizational design. Recognizing those differences is not favoritism. It's a reflection of Wisconsin law and the responsibilities assigned to each position. So instead of asking, why is this position treated differently, the conversation becomes, what does the law require, and how should Franklin organize itself to comply operating effectively? That's exactly the kind of principled framework that supports sound personnel decisions and consistent administration, and that's where I'm taking us. I can actually bring over to all of you, so if you'd like to see it, just kind of like that little matrix that I was looking at or talking about. Two at once. Funny. So the example of the clerk's position, the things that I would ideally do for every position, and then the matrix to like really summarize it, you know?
Yeah.
And again, I just finished this like literally right before this, but I'm working on a very like global project that in just 3 years here of trying to locate things and coming up with all these like one-off situations that I've been dealing with, I've been very motivated to create a governance framework, which is what this little piece, this little synopsis of that I included is supposed to do, right? So you do have this. This is that governance philosophy, organizational design, and I started to highlight it right before we went on break. You know, it talks about the purpose, the history of Franklin's organization, organizational assessment, recommended organizational structure. Volume 2 would be Wisconsin statutory authority. This becomes one of the strongest sections because every recommendation will be grounded in law rather than preference. So for every position, they would analyze position, Wisconsin statutes, appointment, removal, policy oversight, budget authority, operational supervision, and independent duties. And, you know, you'd include them as applicable from every position, basically. Each section will distinguish between legal authority and operational practice because they're not always the same. For Volume 3, Franklin Municipal Code Review, this will cross-section every recommendation against our own ordinances. So for each department, current ordinance, current reporting relationship, conflicts or ambiguities, recommended revisions, whether council action is required, whether ordinance amendments are required. So it ensures that the proposed structure aligns with Franklin's governing documents rather than relying solely on general municipal practices. So then Volume 4 is benchmarking. I think it's very important to, you know, kind of hold ourselves to our peers as well to some extent or another. So we would compare Franklin to peer municipalities in Wisconsin, focusing on communities with professional administrators and comparable service levels, right? So potential comparisons include Greenfield, Oak Creek, which I always say is like our sister community and like a fraternal twin. New Berlin, Brookfield, Waukesha, Menominee Falls, Kenosha, Racine. I mean, we can go some of the municipalities within the county, go outside. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. And then for each city, we would examine the community, the population, the government form that they take, whether they have an administrator or not, reporting structure, and notable practices. So the goal, again, isn't to copy what everybody else is doing, but to find the most supportive and effective administration municipal framework here. 5 would be professional guidance. This section draws from nationally and statewide recognized guidance, including ICMA principles on council, manager, and administrator forms of government, the League of Wisconsin Municipalities publications, Wisconsin City Council Management Association resources, Government Finance Officers Association where relevant, and public administration best practices. So this helps demonstrate that recommendations are grounded in established professional standards. This is not to somebody's whim. This is legitimate. It's to create a real foundation and a real path forward, something that when I retire, I can say, here you go. And it's a living, breathing document. It's a path forward of how to operate while keeping the institutional knowledge as part of it. Where we were and where we're going. Volume 6 is governance matrix. Instead of simply showing reports, who reports to whom, define what each relationship means, right? So department appointment, removal, all of that fun stuff. Next page. And I think, I'll back up a little bit. Why I think this is important, it distinguishes concepts that are often confused. That is, the council may appoint, the mayor may provide policy leadership, the director of administration may coordinate daily operations, a statutory officer may retain independent legal responsibilities. That nuance is critical and really kind of the foundation of everything. A governance responsibility matrix would then follow. So not just reporting lines, but what are you responsible for? And in here, I imagine it like the function, council, mayor, director of administration, department head. So who establishes policy? Council. Mayor makes recommendations, director of administration advises, and department heads implement it. Annual budget. Council approves it, mayor recommends, director of administration prepares, and department heads assist. So it really kind of, there's no gotcha in any of this. It's really laid out clean, and it's something that I'm hoping when somebody starts with the city, they can grab it and really know what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we got where we are. So like the hiring as provided by law ordinance, obviously council's voted, so not necessarily a approved position. It's just you either win or you don't. Same with the mayor. The director of administration coordinates, oversees administrative hires, and department heads participate. Performance evaluations as applicable for the council and mayor. The director of administration conducts for assigned departments, and staff, department heads would conduct for their staff. So just kind of on and on, so that way you can see how the responsibilities are defined, and it becomes more of a governance map versus an organizational chart, which I think is really important. Department locations for every department, explain the reasoning behind what we're doing. So for example, information technology. Why is this department under administration? It supports every department. It's enterprise-wide technology governance, cybersecurity, capital planning, procurement coordination, records management, and operational efficiency. IT alignment under administration is the organizationally best place for it to serve the city. And then you apply that to every department, which IT is under the director of administration, so it's kind of easy to do that one. Volume 7 is implementation, right? Rather than proposing an immediate restructuring, a phased approach is recommended. Phase 1 would be the organizational chart adoption, clarifying reporting relationships. Phase 2, ordinance review, administrative policy updates. Phase 3, performance management, succession planning, annual governance review, and then deliverables. Once finished, Franklin will have a professionally written governance manual, a legally grounded organizational framework, an editable organizational chart, a governance matrix, benchmarking against peer municipalities, supporting legal analysis, and a roadmap for implementation. All of it, I have trust but verify. Everything would be cross-referenced against statutory referencing, ordinances, governance recommendation before included in a final manual. And it would cite Wisconsin laws or professional guidance, and everything would be confirmed. And the hope is that this organizes it so that it's not only useful for Franklin today, but also adaptable as the city grows and future administrators build on it.
Amazing.
What's that?
This is great.
Much more helpful than
Yeah.
what we have, much more clear than what we had before. A lot of time and effort was put into this.
Yeah.
Very impressed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm sorry that was a lot of talking, but I did want to state a few things, and I have my little notes that I was going to lead into all of this with, but I'm just going to go backwards. So I wanted to present this as a discussion draft with the intention to begin a conversation, right, regarding organizational alignment, governance, operational efficiency, and accountability. It's based on historical review, current operational needs, municipal management best practices, and it's intended to evolve through committee and council discussions. The framing does several things, I believe, anyway, I hope. It invites collaboration rather than forcing an up or down vote. It reduces the likelihood that someone feels compelled to oppose it simply because one or two people are bringing it forward. It demonstrates thoughtful leadership by showing we seek the best organizational outcome for the city rather than defending a predetermined structure. So why are we doing this now? Over time, reporting relationships have evolved incrementally without a comprehensive review. As the city continues to grow, it's appropriate to evaluate whether our organizational structure still supports efficient operations, clear accountability, and effective service delivery. This discussion draft is intended to help us have that conversation in a structured and thoughtful way. So I'm treating this meeting as the launch, and I'm hoping that Personnel Committee is receptive, and this will eventually serve as Franklin's long-term organizational governance document, and it could be incorporated. And again, it would have Wisconsin statutes, citations specific to second-class cities, municipal codes and ordinances for the city of Franklin, benchmarking against our peers, ICMA and League of Wisconsin Municipalities guidance, a governance matrix distinguishing appointment authority, policy oversight, budget authority, and day-to-day operational supervision for every department. I think that this would elevate an organizational chart to a comprehensive governance framework, and that this could be something that could easily be used indefinitely. So that's what I wanted to say. And ultimately, that it would, my hope would be that it would fundamentally improve the way that we do things here and create some substantial efficiencies. I'm done now. Thank you. Sorry.
A lot of work.
Yes. Sleepless
I
nights.
believe that it hasn't been touched since 2005.
It's a little scary, right?
So tonight we decide the next step, whether we're going to review further next week, or I don't know if we're prepared to say yay tonight.
Yeah,
There's a lot of material to digest.
right. This is just for a discussion. There's no action tonight. My goal is to continue to work on this and bring it back as new pieces are developed and to talk through them and to kind of use it as a workshop almost. So hopefully I will have more advance notice for all of you so I can get the information out in advance. But this is just something that kind of evolved in my own head in the last couple of months, and it's just gotten kind of stronger. So I've spent a lot of time on this and, restructuring how I want this to look and how many manuals and, framework references and that sort of thing. And I'm trying to establish a good structure for all of it, not just one piece, but all of it. This just happens to be, I think, the probably the greatest starting point and probably most necessary.
Any comments or questions?
Again, I think you did an amazing job on it. That was a lot of work, and I certainly appreciate, I'll speak for myself, I certainly appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and it really fits right into the performance review
Yep.
because it's going to define
Right.
responsibilities and who reports what to who and all those kinds of things, which will make that more productive.
That's definitely my goal, is to, really kind of lay everything out so anybody can pick it up and go, oh, this is what's expected. No surprises. It's all just right there. There's no gotcha in any of this. We want everyone to be successful because it's a team effort. If we're only as strong as our weakest person, and we really want to be able to have strong footing. So I think that, developing this further is really important.
There is a lot of work here, and I appreciate that. Thank you. You had mentioned so anybody could pick up. Do you anticipate this would be an internal document or something that would be on the web,
I think,
or not sure?
yeah, it would be an internal document, but certainly something that we wouldn't be opposed to sharing. I'm hoping, I have really big hopes and dreams of how big this can be. Who knows who will want to copy it and incorporate it. I felt like for a while now that it's really hard to find the bones or the structure here at the City of Franklin, and it's my job and my desire to, if we don't have it, create it and to have it make sense and be rooted in actual laws and ordinances and best practices, and not something that is done just because this is how we've always done it. That's one of the things I cannot stand hearing from people. Oh, this is how we've always done it. It does not mean that it's the right way to do it. In fact, I can tell you, I've found out a number of times it's not. So, I think it's important to question the norm and get to the source of things to make sure that we're doing things how we should do them. And I think ultimately it'll be a smoother operating community.
Well, thank you so very much for the discussion. It's brought up a lot of light for us. Michelle?
We had the old flow chart hanging in the Alderman's room forever.
The one that was manipulated in 2021.
Maybe. But once this is all done and finalized, it'd be nice if we could get this one up there.
Yeah.
And then maybe have it somewhere like back in the hallway or somewhere over in the clerk's area or somewhere else too.
Yeah. I mean, the question about having it public and that sort of thing, I don't have a problem with it being public because it's something that I think everybody should know how we operate. It just is a matter of us figuring it out and then putting pen to paper. And that's what I'm trying to do. I think it can only improve operations.
Next item on our agenda is the discussion of duties and scope of Personnel Committee. Blake, would you be leading the discussion? Or? You've handed out the summary of outline of what our administrative responsibilities are.
Right.
I do not know if everyone has had an opportunity to look at it. I have it. I feel we do a good job following along in our areas of responsibility on this. Would anybody like it to be covered in more depth? Okay.
Was there any reason that we had it on the agenda? Was there something that brought it up?
Yeah, I thought it was requested last time. Maybe it was an informal conversation. But, I don't think it's problematic to have it and just kind of review it as a new committee or newer committee and then be able to, like anything, this is a livable document. So I think it's important to make sure that we're updating it as appropriate too.
It'd be nice to have something that's from almost every board and commission.
Sorry?
They do, or they should. I haven't seen everybody. Yeah.
I said it would be nice almost, not to have enough more work on them, but I said it'd almost be nice to have something like this for almost every board and commission, especially for like new people when they join, and just like general.
I
Keep
agree
a
with that.
binder of it, and then.
Instead
agree
of
with
getting thrown in the fire instead of the frying pan.
Yeah. Well, and that's really ultimately what I'm looking to create.
Thank you. I agree with that. Perhaps that's something that could be recommended to each board and commission, that they put together their own task booklet.
Most of them or all of them should have it, but yes, I know that, for example, Parks and Environmental, because they were combined, they do have it. And the last time I was there, which was a couple of meetings ago, they were reviewing it, or they were talking about reviewing it and making it applicable to now because those two boards were combined. Parks Commission is a statutorily required commission, so there are guidelines in state statutes that they need to follow. And, to put that and then try to capture some of the environmental pieces that were on the environmental committee, I think would be the ultimate goal for that. But they're not starting from nothing. Every board and commission should have something like this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Excuse me. Our next item, staffing report, item 8.
All right, that would be me. So I would like to first point out that we have 3 open fire vacancies that were unfunded until August. So we currently started the recruitment already. And when this agenda was sent out, we had 3 recommendations. At least one of them did not accept the offer. So we'll probably go back to the drawing board on that and see if we have another candidate we'd like to recommend. We have 2 unfunded police patrol officers experienced due to resignations. There's no estimated time that those will be funded, but likely by the end of the year. We also have 2 dispatch clerks. We went through the whole process of recruitment and testing, which I proctored my first dispatch test. That was very interesting. 113 applicants, and got down to 2. So they were both sent to background, meaning that they're doing the background investigation on them. Working at the PD, you need a little bit more of a thorough background check. We have 1 AP accountant position open. We're currently in the interview process for that right now. And we have that sewer and water tech that was approved by the personnel committee and will likely be posted one of these days moving forward.
And of course, the newly hired, appointed, and confirmed city attorney, Christina Lucchese.
What kind of background did that person have?
She's got substantial background in bonds with Von Briesen, so she did $1 million in bonds, which is very helpful actually because we have a number of bond issues right now in engineering, and it's nice to have somebody that has that background. I don't have her stuff in front of me, so I'm not going to do a really good job of speaking to her credentials, but I think she's been an attorney for a number of decades, and she's a go-getter, motivated, has jumped into creating a cadence with Jesse to make sure that she's picking up the institutional knowledge that obviously he has after 37 years. We are focusing on getting the right resources like Westlaw available to her, and looking at the various associations and that sort of thing. She does not have specific experience in municipal law, but she's got a substantial amount of experience, and it also kind of lends itself to municipal law, I guess, for lack of repeating that.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. Bless
I did
you.
my own kind of background, and we were provided with a lot as council. We had a special common council meeting to ask her questions prior to her appointment. I did my own personal background. I know several attorneys that work at Von Briesen. And she came highly recommended. But then also, during this entire process, which I found very interesting, although I've been an elected only 4.5 years, and I have followed politics in Franklin for at least 10, I never knew until recently that 37 years ago, when Attorney Wesolowski started, he started with absolutely zero municipality experience. And he was trained by Fred Clemens. So Christina's going to be starting out the same. Jesse's not going away anytime soon. He's going to be with us for quite some time yet, training her. But I just found it fascinating that Jesse started with the city of Franklin with zero municipality experience, 37 years ago, which I found very interesting. So I just wanted to add that. And then if we don't have an answer to this question, it's fine. It's more out of curiosity. For the resignation for the police patrol officer, do we know if they left to go to another department? And if so, which department?
Was for higher pay. Piggybacking, sorry.
Well, a lot of times they leave Franklin and go to Milwaukee, it's always a variety of different.
I will get back to you on that. I'll look that up and see who those resignations are for. And it was before my time here, so these have been unfunded for quite some time.
Oh, it may be. I know that we lost 1 or 2 to MPD. It could still be like something like that. I'm just always curious to know
I'll find out.
Like who's poaching us?
Why somebody would leave. When they do, they leave
And why
Franklin
we-
and
yeah.
they go to MPD. It's it's not very common, but it has happened. It's very surprisingly to me, I guess I should say. But some like more action.
Yeah, actually, we did have a sergeant that was here and then had decided to do a lateral transfer. And we get a lot of lateral transfers from Milwaukee as well and other municipalities. But one that was here that was going to Milwaukee to do more of like the beat cop stuff because that's what he enjoyed.
And also, I learned through this too, is that because MPD is so much larger than our Franklin Police Department, there's more positions, more room for advancements.
Right.
And then I know that we unfortunately had an officer resign or did a lateral transfer to go to New Berlin, I believe it was, in his hometown.
That was
So
a
that
big loss.
So that could still be part of this. So you don't have to dig that deep into
Okay.
it. Like, I know you're busy, but this is probably, we're still probably fulfilling those
Yeah.
positions, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't heard of any newer ones.
Okay. Thank you.
And actually, I'd like to add one thing too. One thing I just found out about another open position that's been open for years, and I don't know if we have a plan for it, is the community resource officer. So I think, and I don't want to speak for the PD or the chief, but it seems it is filled.
Yeah. We actually have two of them. We've got one at the high school and one at the middle school. And
I think that's the SRO.
That's an SRO.
oh, yes.
So
Never mind. Sorry.
The community resource officer would be more so to handle like animal, like smaller level things or calls, and it's just been unfunded for a couple of years, and I just found out about it, so I'll add this to the next.
How is that different than Officer Wallace's
Yeah.
position?
How is it different?
Yeah.
So I think this community resource officer would handle, like they'd be dispatched to do maybe not like a domestic dispute. You know, they'd be like something more like a noise complaint or something. I don't know if I would call it a low level because that's probably not the right term for it, but not the high stakes that we have our police officers dispatched to.
I think, well, that, and I think that's where we're getting confused because I believe Officer Wallace is typically referred to as the
As the
community
com-
resource officer.
He is.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
so maybe,
Yeah, that's where our
Yeah,
confusion
right.
is,
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
all know him.
because we all know him. So I think that may be where the confusion comes in.
I
And so his position is, you would liken it more to like community policing and outreach, where he is involved in like, you know, a national night out and involving police with, I guess, the more friendly face to the community.
Yes.
I think what you're talking about is, yeah, like low danger. I'm going to use that word. It's probably not
Yes.
the right word. My husband
Yeah.
would slap me. But like low danger events
Yes.
that are not required for, you know, like a multiple response, an animal complaint at a playground,
That is
you know,
correct.
something like that.
Yes.
But I don't know if the title would be the same. So that may be something to check with the
Okay.
chief with is, are we calling it community resource officer? Are we calling it something else? Or do we need a different title?
And just for clarification, so the school officers, okay, so the school resource officers, they're also called the community resource?
Nope, those are called
No.
SROs.
Yeah,
Oh,
I just
okay.
School resource
Oh,
officer.
okay.
And
Sorry.
short, not long before you, well, what is it, a year ago? We, with a lot of discussion, with a lot of complaints that I was receiving from the middle school, it was
Added
brought
the
to our
SRO.
attention that we needed an officer there full time. And then that's when we appointed a second one, so just one at the high school, and one for those little naughty middle school kids that can be
Yes,
sometimes more troublesome than the high school.
they can be, yep.
middle school's scary.
Yeah, and
So-
feisty.
It's a challenging age.
Because with Officer Wallace's position, it's my understanding, he still goes out on, when needed, he still goes out on regular calls.
He
Oh,
does,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
He it's a kind of, yeah, he's
Right?
still,
He's like,
a full-on
like all,
PO,
he wears a lot
yeah.
of different hats.
He does,
right?
yeah.
yeah, he's still, I'm assuming, I think he still works a shift, it's just day shift.
He's
So-
just not, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, our next item is item 9, our future agenda items. Any recommendations?
Does the continued discussion of the restructuring?
Of the restructuring?
fit underneath that?
Yeah, I would like to continue that.
Absolutely, yeah, whatever you
Whatever I can create between now and then.
accomplish, yeah, between then and the next meeting, yeah.
Okay.
Excited to see that.
I feel like I had one, but I can't think of what it is. I mean, well, you did that here. Overall, do we short on DPW employees, like anything on overall areas of where we're low on staffing, even if we can't afford it?
Well, we're always low on fire, police, and DPW. It's kind of like those are always kind of open. You might have a better idea of anything outside of that now. Dispatchers too. I know that there's a restructuring in the finance department, and so that's why that position's open, and just trying to find ways to work with the staff that they have and obviously meet all the needs and bring another person on.
Is there, so no one retired then?
No, Tom's set to retire between now and the beginning of the new year, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I know that there's been talk that Cheryl has 2 years, so.
So just in general to
Mhm.
be ahead of the game?
Actually, one of the pieces in the restructuring is that we would like to position Sarah, who is currently doing the interim deputy position, to take over for Tom when he retires. So there will be that that overlapping, and hopefully that can be something that will really help with that transition. You know, because Tom's been here for over 20 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next scheduled meeting will be the third Monday of the month. We have listed here either August or September. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.